Welcome to the Nancy Drew channel, and this episode is about the murder of David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen. And this photograph that you're looking at is two students from Hogan High School giving a check to David's younger brother, Robert Faraday. Now, the murders took place on December 20th, 1968, and it was quite dark out in that area. Yet in this video, since I'm making it today, all the photographs are in the light of day. And this video is about before the crime took place. Yet I will call the crime scene, even though it hadn't occurred. And keep in mind that witness testimony will be presented as it was to the police, yet sometimes it's inaccurate. Now here's David Faraday and his family, and the photograph on the right was taken by a reporter, and it includes his entire family except his father, who I believe was at work at that time. And here's Betty Lou Jensen and her family, and the woman on the right is Melody, Betty's older sister. And I think it was quite gracious of the families to allow the reporters to take a photograph of them so shortly after the deaths. Now, when I say witnesses, I mean to what happened that night, not necessarily eyewitnesses to the shooting. So the first witness here is Sharon, and she was age 16 and the best friend of Betty Lou Jensen. Bingo was a sheep herder who lived south of the area, but had come to the area that night to tend his sheep. Frank was a long-time resident of Vallejo, and he purchased a ranch on Highway 12 near the crime scene, northeast of the crime scene, and he enjoyed hunting. Robert was a friend of Frank's and enjoyed hunting also, and he was new to the area. Previous to living in Vallejo, he lived in San Rafael, or near San Rafael. Now here's a picture of William Crowe, not the William Crowe that was out there that night. I couldn't find a photograph of him, but I found this photograph funny. Sergeant Crowe, straighten up. Sergeant Crowe, at ease. At ease. Sergeant Crowe, do you hear me? At ease. But the real witness that was out there that night was 22 years old. And you can see in this photograph that the person is not 22. That's because often in my videos, it's hard to find a photograph at all. And so the photograph is at any age. Sometimes they're younger, sometimes they're about the right age, sometimes they're much older. Helen Axe was out there that night with not her boyfriend, but with her husband. I believe the police report made that mistake because she was so young. Now here's the man I believe was out there that night, Thomas Frank Axe, and he was 22 years old at the time, and this photograph is when he was in junior high, so he looks very young here. Now, Thomas was born on October 28th, 1946. He enlisted in the Navy, and he served from 1964 to 1970. So he was in the Navy during this time. Now, Helen M. Bridges married Thomas on August 26, 1965, at the age of 15. So she attended school, high school, in the Vallejo area, but it's very difficult to find any record of that because she did not attend school very much. Now, this city directory from 1966 on the page of Thomas and Helen is blurry or messed up. So I looked at the back where it lists people by their street address. And so at 635 Ohio Street is Thomas Axe. And Helen was there also. Now they moved to San Diego because Thomas was in the Navy and stationed in San Diego. And here you can see that they had a girl, Sherry, on October 2nd, 1966. And here you can see in 1968 they lived in San Diego, California at 4050 Oak Crest Drive. Now they moved back to Vallejo in the end of 1968. And if you look at this listing here, on the top right, it has a little H60, and then it says Woodrow Avenue. That's where they lived, and that's where they lived when the police report was taken. And I will put up the police report later in the video. Oh, and you probably would like to see this, a side-by-side view of Thomas Axe and the sketch of the Zodiac killer. And if you look really close, you can see that the glasses are almost identical. In most videos, the glasses don't look like the glasses on the sketch, but in this case, they look exactly like the glasses. Peggy Ure and her husband were out there around 11 o'clock. They were in Sacramento, and on their way home to Benicia, her husband decided to look at some construction work that was being done on Lake Herman Road, and so they turned off there. James Owen was a family man who lived in Vallejo and was on his way to work that night at the oil refinery in Benicia, and so he passed the crime scene. Stella was a mother, and she was on her way to pick up her son from a show in Benicia, and her son, who wasn't a witness, but I decided to include him also, was 13-year-old Daniel. And in this photograph, he's 15. And some boys at 15 look manly or older, and some boys at 15 look quite young. And the last photograph is Stan. And he was out riding with his friend, a college student from Sonoma State College. And yet again, I put this photograph here, but it might not be the Stan. But the reason I included it is so you get an idea how young that 14-year-old might have looked. Okay, are you ready for this? At 8 p.m., David arrived at Betty's house. She was getting ready, and David talked to her father, Vern, for a little while. At 8:20, David and Betty arrived at Sharon's house. According to the police report, Sharon related that Betty Lou and David came to her house at approximately 8:20 on Friday. They remained there until 9 p.m. She stated she walked to the car with them. They did not state to her where they were going. At 8 p.m., Bingo was out in a field tending to his sheep. And if you look to the left, he was farther out to the left when this all occurred. And so if you put your face right up on the screen and look to your left, you might be able to see his sheep out there. At 9 p.m., David and Betty arrived at the school, Hogan High School, for the Christmas concert. The concert was from 9 till about 10 p.m. Now at approximately 9 p.m., the raccoon hunters, Frank Gasser and Robert Kennelly, were driving west on Lake Herman Road. So that would be the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and then going up the screen towards the middle top. And they pulled into the right into the dirt driveway of Marshall Ranch, and they parked out there somewhere. And they noticed a car parked in the turnout, and it wasn't David Faraday's station wagon. It was a white Chevy Impala. Now at 9:30 p.m., William Crow and his girlfriend were driving on the road. Crow was at the wheel, and he was driving east, which would be from the right of your screen to the left of your screen. He stated he was driving his girlfriend's sports car, and he was testing it out and adjusting the motor. He was parked in the open area by the pump station. He observed a blue car coming down the road from Benicia towards Vallejo. They passed his location, stopped in the middle of the road, and he saw the white lights of the reverse come on, and the car started backing up towards them. Mr. Crow put the car in gear and took off at a high rate of speed, and the car followed him at a high rate of speed. They did not attempt to gain on him, but when they got to the turnoff towards Benicia, Crow turned towards Benicia, and the other car went straight ahead. The subjects were both Caucasian, and there is no further identification on the car or the subjects. After going to Hogan High School, David and Betty went to Mr. Ed's drive-in to have a soda. There doesn't seem to be enough time for them to stay at Mr. Ed's for very long, unless they never really went to the Christmas concert. So it's possible they went directly to the drive-in restaurant and skipped the concert. At approximately 10 p.m., according to the testimony Bingo gave the police that morning, he arrived at the crime scene while the ROs were rechecking the area. He was questioned and related he tends sheep in the area east of the Benicia pumping station. Last night he was checking his sheep at approximately 10 p.m. and he observed a white Chevrolet Impala sedan parked at the south fence of the entrance to the pumping station. He also observed a red Ford pickup with wood sideboards in the area. The pickup was later identified as the one Frank Gasser and Bob Connelly were riding in. Mr. Wissner did not see the Nash Rambler. At approximately 10:15, Helen Axe and her husband, Thomas, were driving east from the right of your screen to the left of your screen. Miss Axe reports that she and her boyfriend, a sailor, were driving on Lake Herman Road. They passed the area of the pump station. She recognized the Rambler and the victims, Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday. Stated that when she went by about 10:15 p.m., the car was facing in towards the gate, and when she returned about 15 minutes later, after having gone to the end of the road and then came back, the car was turned around and the front was facing the field a little to the side. At approximately 10:30 p.m. in the East Vallejo area, Stan and a friend of his, a student from Solano College, were going towards Blue Rock Springs on Columbus Parkway, and a Olds two-door hardtop 88 Dawn blue in color and a 63 Chevrolet Impala blue with two persons in it of Lake Herman Road onto Columbus Parkway, heading in the direction of Blue Rock Springs. This was at approximately 10:30. At about 11 and before 11, Frank and Robert were in those trees back there, probably farther to the left of the screen to the east, and they had been raccoon hunting in that area. Connelly and Gasser have been identified by Deputy Villarreal as raccoon hunters who were in the area of the Benicia pumping station and who have been identified by Mrs. Yore. They had their 1959 pickup truck, red in color, with wood sideboards, parked inside the field of the Marshall Ranch. In this interview, it was learned that they were hunting in the area from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. 11 p.m. was approximate because Connelly looked at his watch and he knew it was in the area of 11. It could have been 5 minutes to the hour or 10 minutes to. It took them 3 or 4 minutes, possibly 5 minutes, to get back to their truck. Walking up the road on the side of the creek, they were about to report to their truck when a car pulled into the driveway, which was later identified as the car belonging to Miss Yore. They claimed that they left the area 5 minutes after Miss Yore, who established the time at 11 p.m. That would put the time at 11:05 p.m. when they left the scene. Now, this part of the report talks about when Frank and Robert arrived out there to do their raccoon hunting. They described the light-colored 1960 Rambler station wagon that was parked at the gate. It was parked southwest of where we finally found the car. This discrepancy wasn't noted at first. This was a statement as to their activity during that night. They said that when they arrived there at 9 p.m., a white four-door hardtop 59 or 60 Impala was parked there, and also a truck coming out of the gate. This coincides with information from Bingo Wessner that when he came out of the gate, he saw the same Impala and also saw the red pickup truck go by. Miss Ure reports that at 11 p.m. she was with her husband and he was checking the pipes and the equipment at the construction site, and they arrived near the scene at the pump station, went on to the bottom of the hill, turned into the Marshall Ranch to make a turn to go back towards Benicia. They observed the Rambler station wagon, and Mrs. Ure described the Faraday car. At the time, she saw the boy sitting in the driver's seat and the girl against his shoulder. When the lights of their car flashed on the Faraday car, the subject in the driver's seat put his hands on the wheel. When the Ures returned a few moments later, after having turned around, subjects in the Rambler were still sitting there in this position. The car was facing east towards the field at the left of the gate. When they turned around into the Marshall Ranch, Mrs. Ure reports they saw a red pickup truck with wooden board sides parked in the field about 25 feet in. At this time, the car was facing out to the road. She stated there were 2 white male adults in the car. One of them was 25 to 30 years old and had a stocking-type hat or cap over his head, a 3-cell flashlight, and a hunting jacket. Mrs. Ure reports that they did not pass any car at the area, and only the station wagon was parked at the pumping station entrance. About 1 minute before David was shot in the back of the head, James Owen was driving east. That would be from the left of your screen to the right or top right of your screen. Mr. Owen states, as he went by the scene where the crime had occurred Friday night, he definitely saw 2 cars, a station wagon and another vehicle parked approximately 3 or 4 feet to the right of the station wagon. He did not see anyone in the cars or around them. He stated as he traveled approximately 1/4 of a mile beyond, he thought he heard a shot. He had his car radio on low. Mr. Owen further stated that just before he approached the scene, a vehicle passed him going in the opposite direction towards Vallejo. He could give no description of the vehicle. This occurred near the Borges Ranch. ROs asked Mr. Owen what time he left the house Friday. He stated it was 11 p.m. He checked the time on his cuckoo clock in the dining room. ROs had Mr. Owen phone for the time to test the accuracy of the clock. It was 5 minutes fast, so that would be 10:55 that he left his house. The only information James Owen could give of that second car was dark car, lacking in chrome, not large, and not compact. Stella, along with her young daughter and her mother-in-law, not so young, on her way to pick up her son, Daniel, from a show in Benicia, noticed Betty and David lying on the dirt, and she sped up and drove to Benicia to this gas station right here and notified 2 police officers that were in that area at the time. This is Well, this ends this episode, and the next Zodiac case video will focus on a minute-by-minute account of just before David and Betty were shot and just after. So I'll see you